Welcome to the Rustenburg podcast.
Good afternoon, Rustenburg. We here again with podcast number 1 for 2023. And I'm quite excited about this one, especially because we have someone special that we will be interviewing. Even though it is quite sad, but I'm very excited for this interview. And again, I'm not doing this alone. I am joined by my co-pilot, Pam Heibeck. Pam Heibeck, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, Tupelo. Too, I've got mixed feelings about this interview or this podcast. Looking forward to it, but also, you'll hear more.
I think we need to do this more often, Pam, myself and you. You know, many times I know I am behind the mic with Lauren Lyons and different people, but like I think you're my favorite. And I'm not only saying this because you're here with me today.
Ditto. It's actually crazy because we sit opposite each other, but our backs are often, we are back to back, and so we don't face each other. And even as we're sitting here now, we're not even facing each other, but at least we're having a conversation. So let's go.
Okay, cool. Let me introduce our guest. So today we are here with, many of you know him as Mr. Stamper, our deputy principal. I know him as AS. How are you, Andrew?
Good afternoon to Pelo and Pam. Yeah, absolutely perfect today after a beautiful day out on the go-kart track.
Yeah.
But sitting here likewise, Pam, with some mixed emotions.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a bittersweet. I think as I can speak for all the staff, and that we were all very sad when we heard your news. Some of us even burst into tears. But it's great to be sitting here, and I'm really excited about sharing more about you with the Rustenburg family, because I think there's a lot of people that haven't got a chance to know you, and I feel quite privileged to be sitting in the seat today. Can I hear a little bit about you?
Yeah, awesome. Looking forward to it.
Pam, let me tell you, and quite funny enough, is like you speaking about like how some of the staff members actually started being emotional and crying after hearing the news. I bumped into Jill Geldenes just as Andrew broke the news, right? And I think it was on a Monday. And of course, I'm just coming from a weekend. I'm just covering a lot of work. So she said... She's crying, and I'm like, and she's like, "Good morning, Tupelo." I'm like, "Good morning, how are you?" And she says, "I'm not good." I'm like, "What's wrong?" She's crying. I'm like, "What's wrong?" So it's sad, Tupelo. And I'm like, "What is it?" I'm trying to understand what is it. And she breaks the news to me. Says, "Andrew's leaving." And of course, I was in the staff room, but that speaks about the impact, and that speaks about Impembelelo. You know, our theme for the year. And Andrew, maybe then bringing it to you. You came to Rustenburg, I think, probably a month after I did. I remember. And having such a huge impact, you know, like such a massive impact from the kids, the parents, the staff members. How did you do it?
I think, Tupelo, for me, it hasn't seemed like that. And so I've been blown away by the response of the staff, the kids, and the parent body. At the end of the day, I see it just as doing a job, coming to school. But I think just being authentic. You know, I've come in, I've been who I am. I haven't put on a show for anybody. Yeah. And I think I was actually chatting with my wife, Kate, about it this weekend. And she said, no, you know, she worked with me previously at 2 other schools. So she said, well, as a previous colleague, I can tell you, you're genuine. So people know that they can trust you. When they tell you something, you'll be in their side. You can have an open, honest argument or discussion. But you're professional about it. And I think that's always been my go-to. I suppose I've got a moral compass that I don't really deviate from, which can be frustrating to some people. But for me, I think that's how I've always tried to live my life, especially in the professional side of things. And so I think, at the end of the day, that's possibly why there's a perceived impact there.
I think one of the things when I think about you is exactly what you said. Your moral compass is amazing, but also you often, if I've come to you to ask you about something, you haven't always given me the answer that I wanted. But what I do appreciate is that it's always I always understand exactly where you're coming from, and I never go away disappointed. But I always I feel like you, especially when people come to you, the way that you impact them with your answer. Sorry, I'm fumbling, but with the way you impact with your answers, is it's a takeaway that we almost question what we've come to you with in the first place. Like, why did I even bother? I actually think I knew the answer myself. But sometimes there's no frills, there's no spills. You actually you tell it like it is. And straight to the point, which I also appreciate. It's like you don't deviate. You're like, well, what are the facts? All right, that's it. Okay, well, we'll stick to it. That's what the answer is. And I'm like, oh, okay. There's no frills, which is amazing. I mean, it's just it's so appreciative.
And I think one of the easier things for me as well, being in a school, and in this case it's girls, but for me it's always about doing what's the right thing for the kids. And I think that's something that I've always stood very firmly on. If we're doing the right thing for the kids, then we don't need to worry and question how we're doing things. So often in some cases with adults, where they come with a question or whatever it might be, they don't always agree with that side of things.
I mean, listen to that. So Andrew, let's then, I want to speak about maybe who is Andrew, or who was Andrew growing up as a boy? Because we're speaking about this impact, we're speaking about this genuine person. Has it always been like that? Growing up,
Yeah, so I think I've always been a genuine person. I've always kind of said what I feel, but not wasted my words. which can be a frustration to a lot of people. Growing up, I think I was like any other little boy.
Spent some time
in the toilet,
principal's office.
In the principal's office. I think far too much time in the principal's office, which I think makes it easier to be a teacher, because I know what the kids are trying to get up to. I often think and scratch my head and go, yeah, I used to be that. So that's who I was growing up. Absolutely sports mad individual, and I think that's what got me through school, was the connections made through sport, and also with teachers who were willing to connect with me in a different way other than just through the curriculum. And I still am very thankful that I've got probably about 5 or 6 teachers from my school career that I still connect with and hold in high regard. And I think that's also some of the impact that's been put onto my life, is that I want to be that teacher who's remembered like I remember these teachers. And I actually had the opportunity of meeting one at the SAGSA conference last year, and I hadn't seen him since my matric year. And 20 odd years later, met him at a conference. He's a principal now, and I'm a deputy. And it was just an incredible moment. I think I shared it with both of you as well.
I think I was lucky enough to take the photograph of the two of you. It was a very special moment. Andrew, talking about schooling, so where did you grow up? Tell us a bit about your formative years and where you went to school.
Yeah, so Cape Town, not Cape Town born, Johannesburg born, but Cape Town raised. And I was fortunate enough to attend Rustenburg Boys down the road, where I spent 12 incredible years in my formative years of education. And then after that went off and studied at the University of Stellenbosch after spending some time overseas in a school in Scotland. And then finished up my studies at the University of Cape Town. And since then it's just been based around Cape Town.
Okay, and then when you were saying that you were teaching with Kate, where did you teach together?
So Kate took a while to get her studies, not just because she changed her mind, not because of anything else. So I started out at Bridge House first back in 2006, and Kate got a job at Somerset House, and then we were living out in Stellenbosch, and I managed to convince the management of the school that it was a good idea to build a new boarding house, and that I've got the perfect couple who can come and run it. And at that stage we created, a post was created for Kate to come over, and we spent about 12-13 incredible years working together. As young teachers, we both started our journeys there. And it was an amazing space, because I can remember when we got when Kate was going through the application process, the big concern of the headmaster was, a couple working together and all of this. And from day one, we drew a line in the sand. And we didn't hang out with each other in the staff room or talk to each other. When people came and asked, have you seen Mrs. Stamper? I said, I have no idea. We said goodbye this morning in the car park and that type of thing. And so, we had a very good professional working relationship, and that's where it started. We ran boarding houses together. We argued ferociously with each other around certain academic ideals or pedagogies or whatever it was. And then, even when we were up in the Eastern Cape, we worked together, probably a little bit closer in that role, but still managed to kind of keep a distance between professional and work life, which isn't always easy. And then when we moved back to Cape Town, we decided it was time to have our own spaces. And I think also, given the position that I'm in, it is difficult having a partner on the staff. So it's been a fresh change. She actually said the other day, it's been quite nice not working with you.
And I'm sure coming home and having something, what happened in your school today? It's like
that kind of
it's
different. Our conversation became all about the one space of work, and we had to definitely try and break away from that, which was tricky because it was our lives. So at least now we can compare different spaces
and how do you find yourselves in teaching? Like, how did it happen?
Interesting one. So I think I've shared the story quite a few times, but my matric teacher told me when the day I finished school, he said, what are you going to do with your life? I think he was a bit worried, and I said to him, so I've just finished matric, I'm going to hit the beach and maybe a few pubs, and then I'm going to go play a sport. That's what I wanted to do. And he said, well, when you grow up, maybe think about becoming a teacher. And I laughed at him. And I said, no. So we both know that's never going to happen. And but he must have seen something. And then that kind of, I think, subconsciously planted a seed. And then I went and worked overseas in a school for a year as a gap student and playing sport and living in a hostel. And I then realized, this is a space. It was more from a point of view of I'd love to go into coaching and that side of things. And then when I went and studied sports science at Stellenbosch, I got involved with more schools on a coaching side of things and a mentorship type of program. And then really I finished my degree and I realized that a sports science was quite a generalized degree. And I needed to specialize in something, and I didn't really want to become a physio or biokineticist or a sports agent or manager, so I decided teaching was probably the way, and that little conversation back in my matric year kind of came back, and that was it. I decided to go into teaching, into especially intermediate senior phase. I didn't want to go into the high school space, and that was the end of the story, and I actually had a wonderful opportunity to work together with that same matric teacher of mine. And he actually remembered that conversation. He said, you see, I told you would find yourself in teaching one day. So, and I actually bumped into him 2 weeks ago and said, let him know that I was leaving. And we had a good conversation about that.
I think the schools that you were in before were in co-ed schools. And the challenges coming into a all-girls school, how difficult or different or challenging was that?
So they were co-ed and independent schools. So this was the first step into the government or states sector, and also first all girls. And I remember when I first told people that I was moving into a girls' school, they kind of looked and they said, "Really? Are you sure about this?" And that was the first time I kind of questioned, well, shouldn't I be going? But for me, again, like I said, it's all about the children, and girls are just children. So from a children's point of view, it really hasn't been that different. I've just tried to approach everything the same way. I suppose working with more females has been different. Females are a lot more task orientated than men, and that when a female teacher comes and says, "Listen, can we get this done?" They mean like do it right now because it's important to them, and they all a lot more organized. So that's been the biggest difference for me. And just recognizing that when you walk around the corridor, for me, it's a big thing, especially I suppose in today's environment. Girls, not saying good morning, girls, good morning, ladies. I think that comes through quite strongly. So I've had to work it on myself. Just say good morning, grade 7s. Just to change that narrative a bit. So that's been the biggest challenges for me.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, wow. There's one thing, Pam, that I know about Andrew, and and it's quite interesting because I've known Andrew for like 2 years since he started here, and one of the first conversations that we had was during lockdown, right? So we couldn't have access to beer. But we had access to ingredients, and that was Andrew's space, you know. And now we get to a point where we have load shedding, where we don't have access to electricity. Where is Andrew going? He's going into that space of solar power and energy. Do you want to speak more about that decision? Was it hard?
About the making beer decision or that?
About the move?
Yeah. To be honest with you, Tupelo, it wasn't a difficult decision.
Yeah.
And that's not because I'm unhappy or not enjoying my current role. It's quite the opposite. So probably for about 6 or 7 years, I've looked at it and said, what else could I do? Teachers are quite set in their ways of you're a teacher and you're born a teacher, you teach and you're gonna die a teacher. And for me, it was that can't be it. There's got to be more. Right from the get-go, when I went into teaching, I had a clear roadmap of where I wanted to be at what age and what stage, and it's kind of gone according to plan. And moving into different spaces, I love challenging spaces. So even when technology came into teaching, my first class had a chalkboard. Yeah. I mean, that's how far back,
showing
and kind of how quickly things. Let's say how quickly things have changed. And one of the first things I did was get rid of that chalkboard because it reminded me of the classroom space and what I didn't like about a classroom. And so I got a whiteboard, and I thought I was really, shaking things up because I had a whiteboard. And then the first time technology came in, I said, give it to me. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. But I wanted to learn. I wanted to take it on. And when lockdown came and we were asked to go online, I loved that. I have to tell you, I really loved that space because it gave me an opportunity to live out this dream that I always thought could be possible. Yeah. And so with this move, it was an opportunity that came along where, I didn't want to 5 years from now say, what if I had have gone into that space? I know the school space. I love the school space, but I just feel there's got to be a bit more out there. I think over 18, 19 years, I've acquired a lot of different skills in the school space, and I want to see if those are transferable, and if I can make an impact in a different space. And I think the big thing that came through for me was when the guys that I'm going to go work for, they said this isn't about having somebody with technical skills. Yeah. It's about somebody who can lead people, and we feel that you are effective in that space. And so for me, that was also a bit of a kick in the right direction to just try something a bit different. And I've also always said that when I lose that deep passion, then one must start to look. And I think personally, nothing to do with the space or the education system, but personally, I think I've lost a little bit of that passion, and maybe a time away will kick that into gear. Or maybe I'll find a new passion in the renewable space. Yeah. Who knows?
Andrew, for somebody coming into your shoes now, if you had to sit opposite that person, what would you advise them, and in which direction do you see Rustenburg going? So that's maybe it's 2 questions. Just with your insight into Rustenburg, where you see it going in the future.
So I think Rustenburg is on an amazing journey. I really do. Having read about Rustenburg before I came here, being very much part of the movement in the direction that we're going, we're on an incredible trajectory here if people can really buy in and believe in the vision. And I think the interesting space is, you've got the whole transformation side of things, and then you've also got an education system that's really changing. And I think we are. We often don't see ourselves doing as much as we are doing, but we're taking inquiry-based learning, for example, and we really are pushing that at the forefront of, I want to say where all schools in South Africa are at, because I don't think there is another school that's taking it on like we are. We're recognizing the challenges, but we're doing that, and I think we're moving towards a space that is becoming a child-centered space. And that's got to be at the forefront when we look at it from the transformation side, from the education side, from our holistic program, whatever it is that we're offering here, our cultural program, is that the children, at the end of the day, they come first, and we've got to make sure that it's a comfortable space, that they feel happy and they enjoy coming here, which I definitely see happening. Yes, we get one or two 12-year-old, 13-year-old girls who on a Monday morning don't look too happy, but I think generally we could say we have happy children coming in, and that's the important thing.
Sure. And then Andrew, 18, 19 years, you speak about the time you've spent in the education sector. What are some of the dearest memories that you have, whether in the classroom, whether with a child, whether those words maybe that you've shared with the child, and down the line now, 10 years later, you see that child becoming exactly what your matric teacher was saying to you?
Yeah. So I think I've got two or three really big lessons that, or incidents that happened in different spaces. And the first one was at my previous school, St. George's in the Eastern Cape, and one day the bell rang at different times, and we couldn't figure out what was going on, and we went and we checked the bell, and it was set at different times, so we reset it. About half an hour later the bell went at a different time, and there wasn't things like load shedding happening, so we went and we just couldn't figure it out. And eventually I overheard grade 7 saying that a certain child had fiddled with the bell. And I walked into the grade 7 class, and I kind of lost it, bombed on them for changing, and I said, listen, I know who has done it, and you sitting here, you know that you've done it, and I'm hoping that you'll come to me and be open and honest about this. And I left it at that. And at about 10 o'clock that night, I got an email on my phone from a little boy who owned up and said, sir, I really just want to say I'm exceptionally sorry. I'll be there at 7 o'clock tomorrow to hand in my badges, all my leadership things, and I'll accept any punishment that comes your way. And this guy, he was a naughty little boy. I mean, we had walked a journey together. And 7 o'clock that morning, he came to my office, he handed in his badges, he said, sir, I accept that I can't be a leader anymore in the school. And for me, that was just such an incredible moment. And I said to him, I said, here are your badges, take them back. And he kind of looked at me, and he said, but sir, why are you doing this? I said, because you've learned a lesson already. You've learned a lesson of integrity already, and here's your badge. So that for me was already that was a big learning curve. And then I had a grade 9 boy when I worked in a college space who he was also a bit of a challenging kid. And at the end of the year, he was leaving to go overseas, and he came to me and he said, sir, I just want to say thank you. And I kind of looked at him, and I put him in a few detentions, and we had run-ins. And he came and he said, I just want to thank you for never giving up on me. Because if you had have given up on me, I wouldn't have been achieving what I'm achieving, and I wouldn't see the value in myself. And you were hard on me, but I now believe in what I can do, and those types of things. And then the third one was, I was in Hermanus. It was during COVID. We were down in Hermanus, and I was walking on the cliff path in Hermanus. I think it's just near Full Clip Beach. Anyway, as you walk along there, I was walking with my family, and this about 6'5" giant started running across the beach. He was built like a tank, and he came running. I honestly thought this guy was going to take me out. I didn't know what I'd done. And next thing, he picked me up in his bear hug, and he said, Mr. Stamps, and he just gave me this hug, and I'm still trying to figure out who on earth is this. And I looked, and it was a boy who I taught from grade 5, and grade 6 and grade 7, then again in high school. And I hadn't seen him since he left the country. When he was 16, he left the country, and I didn't expect to see him on the Manus Beach. And he picked me up. He said, "So good to see you, sir." And we had about a half an hour chat, and I bought him a coffee and that type of thing. But it was just so incredible for me that you'd had this kind of connection. Again, no one ever went out to make that connection, but it just, you clearly had an impact on somebody's life. And I mean, I've often felt like doing that to some of my teachers, just going and giving them a big hug. Just like I can't pick them up, but if I could, I would.
Andrew, how would you like to be remembered at Rustenburg?
I think I've touched on it already, but as a teacher who was fun, kind, and who put the kids first. That's how I want to be remembered.
You'll be remembered exactly like that. And fair, I have to add that in. So personally, I'm going to miss you hugely. It's just really been an amazing journey working with you. And we're super excited for you. We're glad in some ways that you're not losing you to another school. But we're really excited for the next chapter in your life and for you and your family. And we just want to thank you for everything that you've done for Rustenburg. Thank you for what you've done for the staff, for the girls, and for the impact that you have had. That you will be missed. But as we always say, once a rusty bag, always a rusty bag.
Absolutely. No, thanks, Pam. I appreciate those words. And I think that's also what made it easier, is that I'm not leaving to another school. It's something completely different. And I definitely don't plan on being a stranger.
Good. We're happy to hear that.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is Andrew Stemper, Pam Habeck, and of course myself, Tapelo Pogoja. Andrew, thank you very much for your time. Thank you to your family as well for sharing us with you. Thank you for the impact. And I know behind closed door, when you make those decisions, when you think about those kids, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tapelo. Appreciate it and appreciate this time.
Wamkele,